Hello, Facebook friends, and anybody else who happens to be watching. All right, my kids are done with school, so you might see the circus in here again. It's been a wild day. We've got snow. We had rain last night. We had ice. I imagine there will be ferrets pouring down from the sky. It's been a wild winter here. A little off track, but anyway, welcome. Thanks for joining me. And I was just chilling for a couple minutes and want to hop on and talk about giving yourself some grace when you're writing your story. A lot of times we feel like, we've got to plow through it and get it all done and it's got to be perfect. Hello, Brandy. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be like all down. Hey, Mary. We've got to get it all out right now. And I know that I always talk about how it does not take 20 years to write a book and have a really good book. But on the flip side of that, it also doesn't have to take like 20 minutes to write your whole book. If you can write a book in 20 minutes, we need to talk. But when you sit down, like, give yourself a little bit of grace. If you're not comfortable writing, if this is a new thing for you, then it might take a little bit longer. You might need to actually work into it. Your first chapter might take longer than the entire rest of the book if you're just getting used to your voice and used to figuring out who you are on the page and used to telling your story, all of that kind of stuff. So don't sit down and feel like, all right, I'm on a timeline. I have a deadline right this second. I have to get it all done. Give yourself a little bit of grace. When you sit down to write, make sure that you are getting something out. Get something out of your writing sessions, even if it's planning. You do want to make the most of your time. There's like a delicate balance to get here between that like super pressured, I have to get it all done, and the I'm gonna go do 5 loads of laundry and not get anything done. There is always a balance you have to attain. And it's like that with really anything for your business, for your nonprofit, for your career, whatever part you're working on that you wanted this book for. If you have a goal of reaching out to a certain number of people, and then you sit down at your desk and you're like, hey, you know what? Candy Crush Saga is looking pretty good right now. And that's what you decide to do with your time. You're not getting it out there. But when you do sit down, get something on the page. And I love telling people this. I say it all the time. I think I've said this in like every interview I've ever done. You have permission to write a messy first draft. I give you permission. Give yourself permission too. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be completely linear the first time that you sit down to do it. You can sit down and write, if you feel like, hey, this thing that happened this morning reminds me of a story that I really need to share. Sit down and write that piece. Make sure that it gets out of your head and onto the page, because the beautiful thing about getting all this stuff out of your head is that when you have it on the page, you have more room in your head. It's like a closet. If you take the boxes out of the closet and you sort through them and you're like, all right, this stuff goes here, this goes here, this goes here, you've got an empty closet now, and you have space to think, you have space to dream, you have space to plan, all that fantastic stuff. So you don't have all those ideas swirling around in there that you're going, I got to remember this. Just make a note, write it down. Whenever I sit down and I'm helping an author plot out their books, I'm not saying, you have to have a story for this part right here. I'm like, what do you got? Dump it all out. What do we got? Okay, let's rearrange this a little bit. Let's move this stuff around. Let's take a look at what's going on in chapter 6, because we don't have anything there. Let's think about that now that we have everything else dumped out, and then we can focus on chapter 6. We don't have to worry about that thing we've got to remember for chapter 15 because we made a note about it. Give yourself grace on this stuff. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be linear. It doesn't even all need to be there when you start. So I know there are some people watching. If you guys have questions or comments, pop in, let me know. Has anybody else gone through this where you sit down and you feel like it has to be perfect? Because you're staring at this like pristine white page and it's all like perfect. I don't know how many people know this, but I like to paint too, and I always think a lot of times, a lot of creatives like to do multiple creative things. I think my kids are going outside. My kids are going outside. They're all covered in like coats and stuff.
Monkey's here. Welcome to the interview.
Bye. Monkey's joining me for the interview.
What kind of show is this? A premiere show or something?
It's a great show. Thanks, Monkey. Mary says, I think you're wandering in my head. I'm assuming that's the part before the monkeys came in. But if you have monkeys in your head, all the better, right? So I started talking about, I like to paint too. That's one of the paintings that I did up there. That's London Bridge. And when you're not used to painting, it's the same sort of thing. You stare at this canvas like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? It's this big blank canvas, and if I put a pencil mark on it, it's ruined. I've actually drawn stuff on a canvas before and then gotten kind of freaked out by my brashness in putting that on the canvas, and then been like, oh God, I screwed up drawing this. It's a wreck. I'm gonna have to put it aside. I mean, I could erase it, but you're staring at it like I marred this canvas. What am I gonna do? Get some of the comments here. Brandy says, I'm an idea generating machine and good at the dumping out of info, but need work with the synthesizing. Yeah, that happens a lot. Getting everything out of your head and then trying to figure out how to organize it. So it's completely understandable, but just getting it out of your head is such a huge step because you've got to get it out there. And even like when I was showing you the canvas, the London Bridge picture, like when I first started drawing that, and that's actually been hanging on my living room wall, I think, since we moved in here. So that was when my husband and I started dating. That was like 2009 that I started on that. I finished it in the spring of 2010. So it's been a very long time that's been up on my wall, but I remember starting that and being like, this is really an ambitious project. And now I've drawn on this canvas, and how am I going to do this? And, just slowly making progress on that over time. And actually the funny thing is it was around the same time that we had that snowpocalypse thing that happened. So I was actually trapped in my house because trees fell down across all the driveways in my townhouse building. So every single driveway had a tree across it, and we were all just there like, okay, stuck. And I remember that was about the time I started painting this painting and starting to go, okay, I know what I want. I can see a picture of what's going to happen in the end. But actually making it happen was a little nerve-wracking. And that's not even something that everybody's seen. Like, it hangs in my house. And I'm not a professional artist. I just keep it in my house. And, people walk in here and they see it, but nobody usually says anything. It's a little different with a book because you're putting it out there. So I can understand that jump, but that's, for somebody who writes books, for me, that was a little different experience. That was like, I know I want to paint. I know I want to do this. I know what I want in the end. And here I am with a pencil trying to mark a canvas. So just a little bit of a different perspective on the writing thing. And if you've done anything creative, I'm sure you can think about, the first time you sat down at a piano, or the first time you decided to take a dance lesson, or, whatever else creative, when you're like taking that deep breath and going, all right, here we go. This is going to be permanent. I used to play the trumpet too, and our band director always told us, like, if you're going to make a mistake, you make it loud, which is not hard with the trumpet being loud. But there were times that, like somebody would kick off at the wrong time and it was just bop, as loud as you could be. It was great. And we chuckled, but it was there. It was loud. It was a mistake. You can't take it back. But, with a book, when you sit down, I got way off on that tangent. With a book, when you sit down and you're writing, you have the opportunity to make changes. You have the opportunity to, be bold and sit down and just get it out there. And I just wanted to remind everybody of that today. Just, give yourself some grace, Don't feel like you have to force yourself and rush that process and, you know, spit it all out, get it all out there. Dump it out, get it on the page, work on rearranging, work on where it's going, and you'll get there. And of course, I'm here and I would love to help you. And if you want some help, you know, reach out to me. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to have a really fun announcement. So be on the lookout for that, because I've got some really cool stuff brewing in the background, and it's going to help people even more with their books. So stay tuned, give yourselves grace, and get some writing done. And don't forget to go play in the snow. So I'm going to check out my kids playing in the snow right now and make sure they're not murdering snowmen or anything. So, bye-bye.